Hey everyone, and welcome to the MSI X399 Gaming Pro Carbon AC review. Oh my god, he sat in the chair. Right, so this is being added in after I've made the rest of the video. So watch the rest of the video, but know at the end there is more information because stuff has happened, but you need to see the rest of it first, and I will explain why at the end. Weird, I know, but okay then peeps. So this is my first of the MSI X399 Threadripper boards, because I now do have my Threadripper retail chip. Thank you very much to AMD for sorting me out. I did have an engineering sample before, so what I've done is I've retested all of my Threadripper stuff, and everything now is current. It was literally, it's been tested in the last week. But X399 MSI board, I have already done a good look around, look at the board, where all the fan headers are and everything like that on the or on my Rush Kit channel, which is my other little channel where I put some of the shorter stuff. So if you want to have a go and have a look at that sort of thing, then you can go and have a look there. I'll stick the links up below, down, underneath, left, right, hokey cokey, all that sort of stuff. I've got it in, and we've been doing a lot of testing. I've spent an immense amount of time on this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bang some graphs up just so that you can have a look and you can pause on the graphs. Just because I'm trying to save time, because I do have quite a bit that I need to talk to you about. Now, with the board, it's the first one that I've done, but it's also the only one that I've seen so far that only has the top heatsink at the top. Now you do have to keep that in mind. I have been testing with it on its own. I have been testing with it with a fan directly on the top, and I have also been testing with it with an AIO in the roof as well. And with the AIO, you've got 240mm fans right above it. So I've covered a lot of things there. I've also, just for the sake of leaving it in so that you can see, I've shown you that I do have the Noctua 140mm one. So we've had that in there. Actually, this is the little 80mm fan that you would have just seen. It's 92 rather. So I have been using that as well. Now I've been doing this all along, but you just normally see me with the final lot of stuff, which is normally my AIO. But we do have this in there as well. So I've done a lot of kind of ifing and messing around. Now with the graphs were at stock, because with the retail sample that I've got on the Zenith, I did find that I was hitting a wall about 3.8 gigahertz. And some graphs it can look better, some graphs it can look worse. So we're just going to use stock graphs, because you do need to remember that 4 cores will turbo up to 4.2 gigahertz anyway. Now, one of the graphs that I do want to talk to you about is the VRMs. Now, with the VRMs, they were a little bit warmer than the Zenith. Now, it was a bit warmer than the Zenith, but tested in the same way. So I had the AIO in the roof, and you had the air from the fans and all that sort of stuff, but we were getting about, it was in some of the cases, it was about 20 degrees difference. Now the difference, even though this does have a tall heatsink on the top, it doesn't have that separate heat pipe, although the board, to be fair, does have room down the side of the IO to be able to get another heatsink in. It doesn't have it. Now at stock, a lot of people kind of like think, oh, you know, stock 4.2 gigahertz, but when you load up all the cores, it's going to be running at about 3.4 gigahertz anyway. But the other thing that's very critical to keep in mind is when you load up all the cores, the voltage actually drops down to about 1.1. So this is how it's kind of built to keep the heat down. Now that's not a board specification thing that's doing, that is literally how the CPUs are designed to work. And that is why when we fix all the cores at, let's say for argument's sake, 3.8 gigahertz, everything gets much hotter, because you've got all of the cores, they're much higher, but then also we've got a lot more volts going in as well. Now while we are talking about overclocking on this, it's probably been one of the most frustrating couple of days testing I've done in a long time. This board is beyond annoying at the moment. Now it is BIOS issues, but what happens is you can make a change in the BIOS, let's say, and you've gone from a point that you know is stable, and you turn it down half a multiplier, so 2 notches, because you change the multiplier in quarters. So you turn it down a couple of notches, and then it will literally 15 hang, and then it will loop a couple of times, and then eventually it will start up. Now, weirdly, when it does start up, sometimes it will start up with the changes that you've made. It doesn't matter whether you go up or down. Sometimes you'll get to the desktop and the changes will still be there. Sometimes you'll get to the desktop and they're not there, and it's gone back to stock. And if it has gone back to stock, you pretty much have to clear the BIOS, and I mean clear the BIOS, to be able to start again from scratch. But like I said, you can go from something that you know is stable, turn it down, and I don't mean touching the base clock, I literally do mean turning the multiplier down, or you know, any tiny thing that would make no difference, and then it will do that hang thing, and you don't know whether you're going to get your settings at the end or not. The other thing that I found with it as well is if you try and restart from the operating system, what it will do is it will go off, and when it goes to try and start again, you'll get a CO error, and if you hit restart, the actual restart button on the board, it will then go back into the operating system okay. But it's incredibly buggy is the best way that I can put it. I've found there's a section in the BIOS, you go into the digital section, and there's a place where you can change the 12 volt settings, and it's the amps basically, and you can go from, like, I think it's 6 to 20 or 8 to 20, I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's quite a lot of options there. It might even be 2 amps to 20. And I have found out that if you don't touch that and you try and set your overclock, then you won't get enough amps going through and you'll get black screens. But also, if it's not quite happy with it, what it ends up doing is say for argument's sake, you put 1.4 volts in the BIOS, and then you go into the operating system, it'll be at 1.1 in the operating system. Go back into the BIOS, and this is assuming that you're missing those 15 errors. Turn it up to the maximum, which is 20 amps. Go back into the BIOS, and then magically your volts are there. Now, I'm running literally the latest public BIOS that's been available on their website, and it's like I said, it's been incredibly frustrating. I've spent so long, because pretty much every time that you change something in the BIOS, you get that hang, and it takes, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes to eventually get to the desktop, and then you open CPU-Z, see if the settings are still there. If they're not, you have to go back into the BIOS, clear the BIOS, start it up, go back to the desktop, then you can't restart it, you shut it down, start it then again, go into the BIOS, make your settings, hope that you get through. I've literally, I kid you not, 2 days of just male phallic symboling around. I was trying not to use the D word, but just to try and get some settings running on it. Now, the highest overclock I managed to get it to run stable was 3.6 gigahertz across all of the cores, and that was at 1.35 volts. Then the one thing I will say, which is really annoying, is I don't know whether you guys are aware at home, but the fact that the voltages and stuff all move around is pretty much because the CPUs are kind of designed to have some kind of control and override on it. MSI have done away with that and gone their own way, where if you put 1.4 volts in and you set your load line calibration up right, you do get 1.4 volts. So on that point, and on that point alone, there is a glimmer of hope within the BIOS, and that point is the bit I absolutely love, because you do get control, and at the moment with the other brands, you're not getting full control. So I'm really happy about that point. But anyway, I've totally lost my train of thought now. But I have totally lost my train of thought as well. But we were talking about BIOS, and we were talking about volts and stuff. So 1.35 volts was where I was at with 4.6 gigahertz. Now, if I go up from that point, I'm getting black screens and instability. I've gone right the way up, and I mean right the way up, to 1.5 volts, which is way too much, but I've gone up in increments just to try and get 3.65 or 3.7, and I can't get there. So the long and short of it is, I do think this does need some BIOS work. The volts and stuff, voltage stability, all of that sort of stuff, I'm actually really happy about. So you do need to know that I'm not just bashing the board entirely. But at 4.6 gigahertz, or 4.6, if only it was 4.6. Oh, it would be amazing if it was 4.6, but sadly it's 3.6. At 3.6 gigahertz, the VRMs do get ridiculous hot. The one thing I can say is you absolutely, positively need roof case fans in your case that are really close to it. If you've got them like this, where you're going to be like 40 or 50 mil away, that won't be enough. With the AIO I was running, it brings it down right the way down to near enough on top of it. That's what you need. And you need that amount of airflow, or you're going to end up with a fan on it. At 3.6 gigahertz, running any of the primes with this on, I was still getting 90 odd degrees with that the heatsink on the top. And to be honest with you, anything other than stock, you are going to be pushing your luck. But you do need to remember that things like Prime and OCCT do put an unnecessary amount of stress on your system. It's worse than a worst case scenario. It's literally just being a male phallic symbol to it, really. So in general use, you're not ever going to get that. But then this is where it gets complicated, unless you're doing something like, oh, I don't know, Blender. And because with Blender, it obviously uses all the cores, and it will spank the bejesus out of it. But then what you need to think about is, because it's going to use all the cores, it's going to kick itself back to like 3.3, 3.4 anyway, volts are going to drop. So you might get away with it. It's just really when the overclocking kind of kicks in, or, you know, if you put an overclock in. So the long and short of it, I'm going to say is, I absolutely, in the current state of the BIOS, I hate it. I absolutely detest it. And I don't know how it can be this bad and be on sale, if I'm honest. The fact that we've had 2 BIOS revisions and it's still got all of these quirks, it honestly feels like I should be reviewing this a month before it comes out. So MSI genuinely need to go and get their act together and go and get this BIOS sorted. If you want to buy it now in kind of hope that the BIOS does get sorted, stick with your stock. I know I would pretty much stick with the stock as well. Let the volts do what they want. You can try and undervolt it if you want. But it is incredibly buggy once you do start going in there and playing around with it. I do get the feeling that MSI are going to ask me to test it again, which is another reason why I've not really spoken about the graphs, and I've only spoken about the overclocking side of it. But it does make me feel a bit kind of like, oh, what, really? Because when you do a bad review like this, or you bring up points like this, it does then mean you've probably got 4 times the amount of work after it. So it's a bit of a pain in the bottom. So the points that we've got to bring out from it really are: the BIOS is buggy beyond belief if you want to start making manual changes. The VRM heatsink, despite the extra heat, isn't really big enough, and there was room for them to have put a heat pipe round and put another one down the side. But the only way around it you've got is active cooling, either in the top of your case or direct on the top of it. And if you're going to make manual changes, and that means more volts than what it will be doing at stock with all the cores loaded, you will 100% need it. And basically what happens when it gets too hot is it will just black screen and it will go off. And you can make it easily do that in Blender. Not at stock, but, you know, with the normal ways, you know, with your overclocking and stuff like that. I mean, I could literally fix the voltages to like 1.3, set it to 3.5 gigahertz, no fan on the top, and within about 15 minutes I could get it to overheat. So yeah, you've got to have active cooling. Anyway, I'm not going to go round and round in circles. I do think it will get better. Maybe that is the optimist inside me, but I hope as well that it does get better too, because to be honest with you, there's too many little niggly bugs and stuff like that. It's not hardware issues, it's the firmware with the BIOS that's going on behind it. So, Would I buy it now? You'd have to want, you know, an all MSI board going on with it in this state. If they get it sorted out, then yes, probably. They really do need to get it sorted out though. And it's because of that I'm not going to give it an award. If anything, it's the Grumpy Cat Award, because I've had to spend, when stuff doesn't work properly, I need to try and work out what it is. And there's so many little, there's no pattern to any of it, to the point where I've tried multiple sets of memory, multiple coolers, fans. I've even changed the graphics card and solid state drive, thinking that there might have been an issue with it somewhere, and it's driven me nuts. I even moved my M.2 throughout the slots in case it was one of the slots and it preferred it in another one. Like I said, I run different memory. I run the memory at rated 3200 megahertz. I run it at stock. I run it at 2800. I run it at 2400. I changed the memory out. I tried another one. I've like I said, I've spent days just trying to work out why it was being an absolute phallus end. Oh, I like the word phallus at the moment, being an absolute phallus end. And so, yeah, at the moment, it does need a great deal of work. And like I said, it's probably one of the most frustrating couple of days I've had trying to work out what's wrong with something in a long time. So that is my opinion. That is my review. What do you think? Okay, so you've watched it. We're back with me in the chair in the weird spot. And I'm here to explain, because obviously that review, it wasn't great. Now, I showed this to MSI, as I always do. If I've got really bad stuff to say, I always give them, and this is all brands, I always give them a chance to kind of say what the chuff is going on. Now, what you need to also remember is a bad review, for me, is bad news, because it normally means more testing. Because if it's bad, they normally want to send you a new BIOS, and one round of tests can take a day to do a full batch. So I said to MSI, you know, this is not good. It is pretty bad. And the 15 error is apparently a memory error. But I'd obviously covered my bum, because I had tested multiple memory, and I tested it both at just what I would call stock, which is 2133, without making any changes, manual settings, XMP, you know, tried lower clocks, but multiple kits as well, because I've got just like a Corsair value kit that's 2133, which everything, you know, should post. And when I was getting that 15 error, I could even get that 15 error with that. Anyway, MSI sent me a beta BIOS. Now, this beta BIOS is meant to go live next week. Now, I'm running the latest BIOS off of their website. So this is a public BIOS that I'm using. So there are people out there that could buy this board, put this BIOS on, and have these problems. Now, because they've not got this BIOS on the website, I have tested it, and I am going to talk to you about it, but I'm not really going to change much about my opinion about it until that BIOS goes live. But you guys are going to get the information so that you can decide for yourselves anyway. Now, the long and short of it is, the BIOS did make a massive difference. All of the issues are gone, and the only real thing that I can see that has changed, that amperage thing where you could see it went from 2 to 20, now is basically just disabled or enabled. But whatever they've done, I'm not getting any restart issues, I'm not getting any hangs, I'm not getting any problems like that at all. The only thing that I can say is I couldn't get my Corsair 3200 megahertz LPX kit. It actually wouldn't XMP that at all. It didn't even matter if I went in there and manually set it. Now, I'm lucky enough to have a couple of those kits, so I did swap in another one in case it was a dodgy memory stick or something, and it still didn't do it. So it still doesn't like that. But when I put the G-Skill kit in that I have, that went in and booted fine. I could turn it down, I could manually set it. It was very clean and cut with that. So there's still some memory glitches, but like I said, all those 15 errors that I was having previously, the restart problem, that's gone as well. So they've made some massive changes within the BIOS. Now, these are all very positive things, and I would like to kind of say that these are all very positive things, but they need to get it on the website for the public, because it's a waste of time giving it to me and it never coming out, or they give you a different version which isn't isn't right. Now, it doesn't matter the BIOS name that I give you, because it's a custom beta BIOS name, and it will change when it comes to you. So what you need to look for is the new one going on the website. So if you end up getting this board, or you have this board, then what you can do is you can actually let me know. You can tweet me, or you can go onto the OC3D forums and let me know. And let me know if it's made a massive positive difference for you as well. So as things stand at the moment, my comments for what I said previously do still stand, because that's the best you guys at home can get. Doesn't matter whether I've got all these funky kind of like hidden ones or not. Now, if they do fix it, then what I will do is I will add an award to the review on the website. But I am not putting one in this review because, and I'm sticking to it, and that's because at this present moment in time, you guys can't get that version. So if they do decide, or when it does happen, because they're promising me that it does, when that BIOS goes live on the website and I'll check it again, then I will add an award to the main review. But to be honest with you, it's a little bit unfair when you think about it, me having to keep going back and keep testing and keep redoing all this stuff, because it wasn't really right in the first place. But they do, you know what I mean, they do need some props for the fact that it has been fixed. Or at least that's the way it's looking with the one that I got. But now you know why there was the weird cutting at the beginning, and we're back here now. And technically, well, I'm filming this bit and it's Wednesday the 13th. Michaela, what was the Friday's date?
It was the 8th.
So Friday the 8th, this review has been ready since, and it was due to go live on Friday the 8th. I filmed the video on Thursday the 7th. So we've had all these delays where you could have had another X399 review, and we've been waiting for MSI to magic up BIOS and get back to me and all that kind of stuff. So at least you know some of the little things that go on behind the scenes. But props to MSI for getting it fixed. But now you need to get it on the website, boys, and we might have a discussion about changing, or with all due respect, adding an award to the website review. But if the BIOS was on the website now, you would have had one for the video as well.